Bitcoin is pumping despite we are seeing outflows from the Bitcoin spot ETFs. What is happening now? About that we will talk in this video. We will have a look at the spot ETF flow. We will have a look at the liquidity map, if this is just a little liquidity grab to the upside or we may have seen the reversal here. For sure we'll also have a look at some open interest data from the exchanges. We'll have a look at the bigger timeframes on the charts and also the smaller timeframes which are relevant at the moment. So I would say we'll start in a few seconds. But before we start, I wanted to give a big thanks to all the people who like this video and leave maybe also a comment down below so this video gets pushed in the algorithm, because we just started uploading daily videos also in English, despite we are already uploaded over 600 daily uploads on our German channel. So we also start in English for now. So if you're new to this channel, just subscribe and we'll update you guys every day about the crypto market so you guys can use it for your analysis.
Bitcoin is pumping even though we have seen negative outflows in spot ETFs throughout the week. How all of this fits together and what the reasons for it are, we want to take a look at together in this part now. And we are already able to observe this very nicely here in the last column depicting the total spot ETF flow since Monday, the 22nd day of this month. Jan. Of course, we only have the first 4 trading days so far, that is Mon to Thurs, as the data for the flows is always reported with a 1-day delay. Today on Friday, trading is still ongoing at the stock exchanges in the USA. Accordingly, we can only interpret this data tomorrow, but it's nice to see that we have now seen a negative outflow over the entire week. What is very interesting about this is that, of course, the buying pressure from BlackRock, Fidelity, etc. has decreased. Just now, for instance, on WED, only 66 million at BlackRock. These are naturally figures that we want to see higher. But much more interesting in my eyes is the problem child of the crypto industry Grayscale, currently with declining sales. What do I mean by that? On Monday, we saw over 640 million US dollars. Yesterday on Thursday, it was just under 400 million US dollars, and this value has really consistently decreased over the entire week. Does this mean that the sales from Grayscale, for example, will decrease and most likely the sales pressure will stop at this point in time? Challenging to interpret. I'm extremely thrilled to witness the data we'll observe tomorrow on Saturday. If we observe a lower value here once more, that is below 394 million, then that is without a doubt an indicator in my opinion. However, we still need to wait and observe if any additional trust shareholders opt to sell once more, potentially during the upcoming week. Especially now when Bitcoin price surges. Why it surges we'll analyze on heat map and open interest. Therefore, however, it is evident that there were 4 negative trading days and 4 negative flow days experienced by spot ETFs. The complete situation was also reflected in the data at the commencement of the week, just at this very moment with this interim retest of $38,500. We'll also examine this chart technically here again. What's currently driving this rally that we're currently seeing in the last few hours is very clearly visible, in my opinion, in the heat maps. And we have to take a look at the whole thing on the 1-week time frame. Very nice to see here. We have on the one hand these liquidity areas at $40,530 grazed. We also faced some resistance. We'll take a look at that again in the chart analysis. This range 4,200 to 40,600, which just played a really big role. And now what my assessment for the next few hours is, we have a very interesting pattern, a symmetrical triangle on the smaller time frame. This could also be a breakout target, which brings us here to possibly test the $42,000 level again briefly in order to pick up these last liquidity areas up here, these really large yellow zones. So far, we are currently consolidating very closely in the range of $41,300 in the last 1 to 2 hours. But there is definitely still strength from the bulls. We definitely want to see the daily candle close above $4,600. Now let us take another look at the open interest as well as the liquidation and funding rates that are currently in effect. Here it's nice to see that now this pump, which we've seen in the past hours, has also been created by increasing open interest, so largely through leveraged volume. On what do I depend on? While the Bitcoin price has only pumped by just under 4%, we see an increase of over 5.5% in open interest. At the same time, there were a limited number of relatively concise liquidations taking place. A total of 6.5 million now here in this first pump, around 10 o'clock, and then another larger liquidation of 6.3 million. At the same time, however, if we now look at the entire thing with the 23rd, in January at 9 a.m. we have approximately 22 million liquidations in a period where we have only vaporized, I believe, about 1.5%. But today here with these larger pumps, we have smaller short liquidations, although the pumps are actually bigger in percentage terms. We can see this nicely in the funding rates when we take a closer look. The funding rates or predicted rates are currently rising strongly again. We generally had a fairly high positive funding rate all the time, which means more traders have opened long positions. And the entire thing is currently taking place. With these extra long positions and already having a market with a large number of long positions, it is of course very simple to rapidly inflate the market. However, it is also truly, one must state, exceedingly perilous, because if there were to be a crash in the next few hours, for instance, if it was just a fake out, then a lot of new positions have just been opened up. They will then be flushed out of the market because they have probably just reached their liquidation point very, very closely. All of this brings us down quickly, even though it has brought us up very, very quickly for now. So you see, I'm a little torn right now. I will now say this again in the chart analysis, what the most important price targets are. We definitely want to see this daily candle close above 40,600, but I believe Saturday and Sunday will also be very target oriented. Directional now for the actual weekly candle close, as in my view the whole thing is still not decided. Bitcoin is currently pumping. Is it just a fake out, or is the correction that was announced with it a part of its historical significance this week? We will attempt to address all of these topics in today's video and also send a warm greeting from me. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Timo, and I would say let's start directly into the content again. There aren't really any very interesting innovations. So what actually happened? We see it. Short recap of yesterday's video, or rather of the week. I have actually been discussing it all week. We certainly want to observe a daily candle closure above this red resistance area within the range of $40,200 to $40,600. And that is what it appears like at the moment. The present daily candle is already at nearly 3.5%. Therefore, it seems like we might witness precisely this announced close at present, which is $41,300. What would it indicate for us if it actually occurs? The correction we have just talked about, which is genuinely imminent in the context of Bitcoin. So far, if we take a look at the whole thing, we have gone down from the last high point, which was around 49,000 US dollars, to around 38. 21% corrected. However, we've also seen huge price increases before, so we've often said that it's not unlikely that we're currently correcting by over 30%. At the same time, we also said that normally when we see these big corrections, it is not unlikely for the daily RSI to go negative. We haven't seen that now. The lowest value on the daily RSI was around 36, so it was oversold, but still not in the negative range. Very nice to see this last big correction. We saw them now, in August, exactly in mid-August 2022, and there it was, minus 15% in a few days. We briefly entered the negative range with the daily RSI as well. Nonetheless, this has not transpired yet, which is why I am not completely sure if this was indeed the correction that occurred just now. What we can say, however, is that if the daily candle closes above this $4,600, it is definitely a very positive signal for the bulls. In the past few days, especially with the last two candles, we have tested this recognizable red zone multiple times, but we didn't succeed. Today, the acceleration came into the market and now this big pump. What actually happened on the smaller time frame? Yesterday, I mentioned this possible double top pad. I said, here again briefly for you drawn, we have now tested the whole thing several times upwards, have not seen a breakout so far. It is possible that we will be sold off downwards. This case has not occurred now, but rather we have a little better recognition on the 1 hour time frame. Such a smaller ascending triangle has formed, which is not quite nice, or you could also say a smaller symmetrical triangle, and from that we have now seen the breakout. What is the breakout target of this symmetrical triangle now? We would be around $41,600, which means there is still room for improvement until we've reached this goal. But actually, we're already close to the target price. If the next 1-2 hours the candles are pumped more, the target price is reached. What can I say? Who do I think is currently stronger in the market? For me, a very clear signal, and I always like to look at candlestick patterns or how the individual candles behave. We see that, for example, the bears have just tried again to sell off the whole thing temporarily, had control of the market for over 2 hours, but did not manage to withstand this selling pressure, and now the bulls are coming back with a candle. If this candle even closes above the wick of the last bearish candle, which had its high point in the range of 41,280. If the dollar should even close above it, it is definitely a very, very bullish signal that we will probably pump even further, and reaching this symmetrical triangle price target is not so unlikely. These are now, as mentioned, the price levels that I'm closely monitoring. It may well be that we now have another hourly dip down to this popular support level. Yes, now back in support zone, we can mark whole thing in green. 10 means down again, possibly to 40,680. As long as we don't fall for it, especially with the daily candle, this is now the confirmation for me. The bulls are back in the market. The bulls will now continue to control everything in the coming days. But what is really interesting is where the weekly candle close will be at the end of the week. What is now playing the bull in the pocket? Just this past weekend, a short recap for you. This yellow zone was the price movement over the weekend, and we basically didn't see any major movements because the trading volume also simply dropped extremely over the weekend due to the allowed spot ETFs. If this happens again this week and the bulls really manage to get the weekly candle close up here because they already secured the whole thing on Friday, that would of course be a very, very strong signal, and that's why I think it's really interesting how Saturday is going, how Sunday is going, where the weekly candle close really stands, because as I said, we have really only rarely seen weekends in connection with the spot ETFs because they have only been allowed for just under 2.5 weeks now, and that's why it will be groundbreaking for me to see where we stand on Sunday. My price targets. If you liked it, please thumbs up, subscribe, activate the bell. See you tomorrow for the next video. Ciao.